If you want to grow in self-awareness as a leader, you need more than good intentions. You need tools. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about my 5 favorite tools that leaders can use to help them grow in self-awareness. And if you're new here, my name is Leanne Lagasse. I am a keynote speaker, a leadership consultant, and the author of The Congruent Leader. And I have the deep joy of getting to spend my days helping leaders and organizations improve their employee engagement and retention through intentional equipping of people managers and leaders. And the goal of that equipping is to help leaders grow in self-awareness and also in congruence, which is the alignment between how we see ourselves and how other people experience us. And if we're going to close that gap, right, and it's usually bigger than we'd like to think that it is, if we're going to close that gap, it's going to take some strategic and some intentional work, slowing down, reflecting, and using some great tools. So let's jump in and talk about tool number 1. Okay, tool number 1 is structured reflective practices. Structured because it has been my experience that sometimes when leaders are concerned about how they're landing or the impact that they're having, they can start to overthink, overanalyze, ruminate in unhealthy ways that really just lead them to too much criticism of self, a lot of shame spiraling, as I like to call it. So thinking alone isn't enough to help us grow in self-awareness. We need structured, reflective thinking. We need to be asking ourselves the kind of questions that actually help us grow in insight, grow in awareness. So there are lots of different ways that you can do this. Maybe you build in a rhythm at the end of your work week. Maybe it's a Friday afternoon, or maybe you do it Sunday evening before you head back to work on Monday, where you kind of review the week prior and you think about, what went really well, what maybe were some areas where I could grow or I could improve. It's adding just a little bit of structured thinking into your communication rhythms that could make a very, very big difference for you. Another practice that I really, really love here is journaling about feedback that you get, whether it is kind of structured feedback like a 360 review or something like that, or it's organic feedback that you received. It's taking some time to reflect on what you heard, maybe the stories that you're telling yourself about what you heard that may or may not be true, maybe some action items that you can put on your to-do list as a result of the feedback that you got. There are lots of different ways you can do this. My favorite way to help leaders grow in self-awareness with structured thinking is putting in front of them questions that are going to help you access the parts of your brain that lead to kind of positive thinking. So here are a couple of questions. This is not exhaustive, but a couple of questions that might be helpful for you. You could ask yourself things like, where did I show up at my best this week? And what made that possible? Where did I feel tension, defensiveness, or frustration? And what might that be telling me? What feedback did I receive, either directly or indirectly? What is a moment or something that happened throughout the week that keeps replaying, and what's my theory as to why? And if I could redo one interaction, what might I change for next time? So the reason that I wanted to share just a couple of questions is because sometimes that's all it takes, is just 1 or 2 questions, stopping and reflecting, asking ourselves bringing some curiosity to the table about ourselves can be a game changer. So that is tool number 1, structured reflective practices. Let's talk about tool number 2. Okay, tool number 2 is research-based assessments. Now here's the thing, there are so many cool tools out there, assessments that you can use that are trying to help you understand your strengths and your weaknesses, your personality, your communication style, your conflict style. There's so many cool assessments out there. Here's what I want to encourage you to do though, is find evidence-based research assessments. But these can be really, really cool tools for you to use. Sometimes if you are engaging in, again, a research-based assessment, you're gonna learn some things about yourself that you may not have had eyes to see before, both positively and then sometimes negatively. So many cool tools out there. I wanna give a shout out just to my very favorite research-based, evidence-based assessment tool. It's from the Gallup organization. It's called the Clifton Strengths Assessment. It's a tool that I use with so many of the clients that I serve. I use it with every single leader that I coach to help them understand some of their most unique patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving, and how they can apply those productively, how they might be kind of creating barriers for them or getting in their way at times. Those research-based tools can be a game changer. I can't tell you the number of times that I've sat across from a leader who has had just a light bulb, moment go off where they realize that maybe, oh, here's why this particular part of leadership is challenging for me. Or, oh, here's why I tend to gravitate towards these kind of leadership activities or exercises. So evidence-based, research-based assessments can be a phenomenal way to grow in self-awareness. A couple of caveats though. A couple of things that I again share with all of my clients is when you use an assessment and your goal is to grow in awareness and congruence, a couple of things. One is you want to make sure that whatever typology or category that you're put in, from this assessment, that you use it for what it's intended to be used for, but we don't want to kind of slap a label on ourselves or anybody else. We also don't want to use it as a crutch or use it as a way to kind of defend ourselves from, accusations of bad behavior. It's like, oh, sorry, I'm such a jerk. It's just because I have this strength or I have this particular personality trait. That's not going to be helpful for us if we're going to grow in self-awareness. Had to say that, but all things considered, research-based assessments are phenomenal ways to grow in self-awareness. Let's talk about tool number 3. Okay, tool number 3 is structured employee listening systems. Now, this is a phenomenal / sometimes painful way to grow in self-awareness. But if you are a leader who really wants to grow, you are going to move towards feedback. So think about in your organization, what are the systems that are in place designed to capture employee feedback? Maybe it's highly structured employee listening, like engagement surveys or pulse surveys or 360 reviews. Maybe it is unstructured, that is again organic employee listening that happens in town hall meetings or in Slack channels, right? Maybe it is some semi-structured things that you're doing like stay interviews or one-on-one conversations. It could be all sorts of different things. But really leaning into employee listening is a way for us to grow in self-awareness, because sometimes, despite our very best intentions, it is tough for people to communicate their experiences with leaders. It feels risky, it feels scary, there's maybe a power or status difference there. When you use employee listening strategically, and especially those anonymous and confidential channels, and this is where the painful stuff sometimes we learn, but it's so important because engaging in that kind of listening, it reduces the chances that you're only hearing the loudest voices or the voices that feel most comfortable, speaking up to you. So this is one of the, I think, highest or higher, return on investment kind of tools. It's very underrated. We don't use it as much as we should to grow in self-awareness, but so much impact is possible if you lean into employee listening as a really cool tool here. All right, let's talk about tool number 4. All right, tool number 4. This one is, I gave it kind of a different name. It is having a personal feedback cabinet, if you will, or really another way to say that is having some in just designated relationship mirrors. So think of this though as like your personal cabinet. These are people that you really trust, that you have asked to speak candidly with you, transparently with you about how you are perceived, how your communication is landing. So this could be people that, are very close colleagues that you work with that will be honest with you, like, hey, I don't think the boss was super crazy about the way you phrased that in that meeting, right? It could be a colleague, it could be maybe a direct report that you have established a lot of trust with over the years. It could be people kind of cross-departmentally across the organization that will be honest with you about how your actions are perceived. The point here is this kind of tool goes beyond some of the other types that we've talked about before, and it really allows for a lot of direct, assertive communication around how you may be perceived. So it's also kind of a scary one at times to really open yourself up to this, but it can be just a phenomenal tool for you to grow in self-awareness. All right, let's talk about the 5th and final tool. All right, tool number 5 is not a tool that I would have had in my list of tools, maybe a year or two ago. And that is AI as a thinking partner. I have found my AI agents to be so helpful in helping my clients and myself grow in self-awareness. So here's the thing, as is always the case with AI, you want to make sure that you are being compliant with your organization's rules and regulations and policies about how to use AI. So be mindful of that. You also want to make sure that you are not trying to replace actual feedback and human connection using AI. But what I love about AI as a thinking partner is if you train it correctly, if you ask the right questions, you can actually get tremendous, thinking help from your AI agent. So here are a couple of just sample prompts, sample things that you can do. And if this is interesting to you, and if you'd like to learn more, I have a free download that you can get access to. We'll make sure that there's info in the description and the comments section for you to access that. It's a tool that can help you grow in self-awareness using AI, but here are a couple of prompts, right? All right, maybe you put in a situation that happened at work, you describe it, and you say, give me 3 plausible ways that my team member could have interpreted my response. Or maybe you post some of your results from a research-based assessment and you say, hey, what are some blind spots that might show up for a leader who's very strong in these particular areas? Or maybe you say, hey, I'm struggling with communication on my team. Help me think through a couple of ideas for how to improve that during our next team meeting. Or maybe you say, here's some feedback I received. Help me separate facts from my assumptions and identify what I can learn from it. Those are just a couple of examples, right? There's so many things that we can do with AI as a thinking partner. So again, if you're interested in maybe digging into that a little bit, make sure you check out that download. As always, though, when it comes to using AI, make sure that you are using it ethically and responsibly, and that you are also realizing that AI really wants to be in your corner. Like, your AI agent is a big fan of you most of the time, and it wants to tell you what it thinks you want to hear. So you do have to prompt it strategically, or else it's maybe going to contribute to our low self-awareness. So use it well. And again, if you have any need to grow more in that area, make sure you check out that download. Okay, all together we got 5 tools that can help us grow in self-awareness. My hope is that this has been a refreshing way for you to think about how you could grow in self-awareness. As always, the list is not exhaustive, but it's a really, really great place to start. And if you'd like to learn more, you can always check out my book, The Congruent Leader, download those resources, like, subscribe, share, do all the things, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here, and I'm rooting for you.